So far we've seen how to manually create the user login and user sign up. However, there's different ways you can do this. So for example, let me go to the Laravel documentation here. There is, like I had mentioned earlier, there is what is known as the application starter kit here with Laravel, where you can add these things like breeze, inertia, some front-end technologies that come with authentication for Laravel. However, I don't want to go this direction because I like to do things manually. And when this application brings in front-end technology, I don't like that. So I prefer to do things manually. I would rather the authentication is done. I create my own templates, my own pages, and so on. So this is why I like this Laravel Fortify instead. Now, the way Laravel used to be was that you would simply create authentication automatically, and it would give you the views and the functionality of login pages. So you'd have, just by typing a few commands, you'd have the complete thing where you can click and start logging in. But they now decided to separate those two. So now you can put whatever front-end technologies you want and leave and simply let Laravel create the backend for that authentication. Hopefully this is making sense. This way you keep things separate from the controllers and the views. You get to program your own views. But if you don't want to do that, you can use the starter kits here in the documentation. But I want us to look at Fortify here, because this one creates the backend for our login, and then we simply create our own views to match with that. Because previously in our videos, we were seeing how to manually create our controllers for logging in and sign up. And we can see how instead we can use Fortify to do that on our behalf. So feel free to read the documentation on Fortify because there's so much here and I'll only be touching the surface. All right, so to install Fortify, you have to use a Composer. So make sure that Composer is still installed on your system as we did when we were beginning. And you have to run this command right here. But before we do this, let me make sure that I have everything set up properly here. So I have created a new installation of Laravel here. Surprisingly, my folder is empty for some reason. Let me get the proper folder from here. Let me drag it to there. Okay, there we go. So I have a new installation of Laravel here. Now, what I do for Laravel is once I run the Composer to download the first time, I just keep a copy there and just make copies of this once I want to create a new project. So that's what I did right here as well. So to begin, always you have to edit the environment file here to make sure that your database settings are actually correct. So here my database is my blog. That's my database name. And that's why I need to change in the .env file there. And once we are done with that, we are good to go. So let's begin adding Fortify to our system. So as you can see, this is a home page and we have nothing here. We don't have a login or sign up button anywhere here. That is okay. And now if we go to Fortify and we copy this command here, Laravel, require Laravel Fortify, that's what we're going to use. So as usual, let's run this using Artisan and let's go to this section here. Let's do that, CMD, so that we can get our command prompt, and then let's paste that in there and click enter. Now, obviously you must be connected to the internet for this to run, otherwise it's not going to install. because what's happening now is that it's loading files from the internet, the Fortify files, and adding that to your composer JSON and also to the vendor folder here. This is the vendor folder right there. So yes, now it's finally downloading. So this is going to take a while. It doesn't take long, actually. My connection is just so slow right now, but let me wait a second. Maybe it's going to finish just now. Installing. There we go. Okay, doesn't look so bad. I think this is the process that takes a bit longer, generating optimized autoload files. But otherwise, it seems the installation here is done. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And I don't see any errors, so that is good. So let me just wait for this generating optimized autoload files, and I'll be right back when it's done. All right, and it's done. So it has added all these packages here, which is awesome. And then what we do next is to go back to the let's go back to the documentation. And now what we need to do is publish the content that it has downloaded from the vendor inside the vendor folder. So we'll do this by using this command here, -- provider, and then we set the path to the Fortify service provider. So all we are doing here is telling it to serve the appropriate files. So just copy that and paste it there, press enter, and it's done. So now what it has done here is it explains that it has copied some files from this particular folder to this one here. So the important ones are config Fortify. This is where the configuration will be. So we'll go through these files here. Create new user is how it registers users in your database. And we'll also look at, it has created a new migration here, a new migration file. So which means we must do a migrate right now to complete this. So what I'm going to do is, so make sure that in your env file here, you have put the proper database name there, and your username and password is correct. Then we go and do a migrate now. So we can say PHP artisan migrate. Now, instead of just doing a migrate, in case you have tables that are already there, let's just do a refresh like that. So put full colon and refresh, just to roll back whatever is there, and then we create a new installation just in case. So it has done the rollback and it's migrating. So everything is done, which means now if we go to our database here, we'll see that we have some new tables here. Password reset, users, migrations. Let me click on users here. Let's see what we've got. So we've got some new folders, new columns here that match because Fortify comes with two-factor recovery, two-factor authentication, and so on. Even though we're not going to be using that here, we're just doing the login and sign up real quick. Now, if I refresh the home page here, you will see that now we have a login and register link over here. So things are actually working well. So if I click on login here, this is the error that I get, and it says target Laravel Fortify. The point is that the login view response could not be instantiated. So let's go back here, and it's the same thing if I click on the register. But let's start with registration, because we need to register a user before we can log in a user of some kind. So what we will do is, let's go back here for a second. Now, one important thing is we have to register. If I go to, where is this? App providers, and actually let's check out the config file first. So let's go to the config folder, and in here you see there's a new file called Fortify, which is here. So let's go through it just a little bit. So here the things you might want to change. Username will reference the email column in the database. This is what this means. Email will also reference the same thing. So you can use either username or email, but they'll all mean the same column. You can change this if you want. And then there's this part which is home. This is where Fortify is going to redirect your user once they are logged in. So you can choose what to put here. Now, if you hover on this thing here, if you're using Sublime Text, that is, you can check out where this actually is, this class. And in here, if you look, there's a constant here called home. This is the constant that is being referenced here, right? This is the one right there. So you can change this to another page that you want. So currently this is at home. We don't even have a home page yet. So let's change this to profile instead, because we want to send the user to a profile once they are logged in. So let's save that. That's okay. So if you notice, this is just some text, right? So if you come back here, you can still add just some text there and put profile like that. It's all good, but let's undo it like that. I prefer to just save it there. Okay, so once we are done with that, wait a minute. Okay, great. So once we are done with that, we can let's see what else we can change. Now, these are the features that you can activate or deactivate. So we don't want to use two-factor authentication for now. So let's just add a block. Let's say comment, toggle block comment. Let's remove that. The rest I think are acceptable. Let's save that. Okay, so there we are done with all this. Very good. Okay, so once we are done with this, we can now go to the Fortify service provider. Anyway, before that, actually, let's see if we can, if we go to the app in the config app.php, there's one more thing we need to do. Here we need to register Fortify as a valid class. So the way I know this is because in the documentation it actually says so. So after you migrate, you register Fortify service provider. So let's just copy what's here. Let me copy that and let's go back here and I will put it right here next to these guys, and I will say class over there, full colon class, comma. And that's it. So we are done with the configuration here. So now the important thing here is to create the views that will go with this and the routes that we're going to use for this. So you put your routes in here in app providers Fortify service provider right here inside the boot here. This is where you add them. So at the moment, if I go back here and click on register, this is the error that I get. But now if I go back here, let's see, let me get this code right here. This is on the authentication segment. Actually, let me find a registration. This is the one I want. Registration right there. It's on the main menu there. Okay, so let me copy this for a second and paste it here like so. So this is how we define our routes now. So instead of doing this inside the routes, this is routes, normally web, where we add the routes here. For Fortify, this is very specific to Fortify because this is a Fortify file. This is where we define the routes. That way, Fortify is going to handle all the controllers once we just add this route here. So if you look at the route, it's just returning a view called auth.register. So you can change this to whatever you want. You can say sign up like that. It's just a view that you want it to load. But the fact that it says auth.register means it's inside the auth folder, and then it's a file called register. That's what it means here. So what we will do then is go to our views and create this view because we need it. Now, once I've done this registration here, this registration of the route, if I go back now, you see that the error will change if I refresh the register page. Now it's asking, saying the auth.register view was not found. So it means we are good to go. We just need a view to go with that. So back here again, let's create a view. So I'm going to go to my resources and views, and let's right click here and create a new folder. So I'll say new folder and I'll call it auth. I'm only doing this because this is how the original documentation came in. Maybe it's a good idea to put things inside a folder like that. That's okay. But if you don't want, just remove the auth there and you can just write the file directly in that views folder. But inside the auth now, let's create a new file and we're going to call this one, let me save this. This file is going to be called register.blade.php. That's the one right there. So let's just add some basic HTML and maybe you can call it sign up. That's entirely up to you what you want to call it. Let me just put an h1 tag. So we're not going to do any extensive styling here because this is about the controllers and not any of this we are doing here. And I'm going to add a very simple looking header thingy here so that we can go to the home page, etc, etc. So what I will do is I will use the Blade system here to put a URL to the home page like so. I'll just put the slash like that and just say home, and I will put a dot over there and just duplicate this a couple of times and put different things here. So instead of home here, there's home. Let's add profile like so. I'm going to say slash profile here. And what other page do we need? We need a login page, just a basic header. This is what I'm trying to make here. And then let's choose sign up. You don't actually need to put these slashes here, by the way. They are not necessary. It works still without them. Let's see, sign up. And then one more, we will need to be able to log out as well. So let me duplicate that and add a logout here, because that's important as well. Say logout. Okay, let us save that. And now let me come back. Since now we've created the view, let me refresh. And now we actually have a sign up view, which is on the register there. So if I click on home, I'm back here and you see there's login and register. Now if I click on register, I have a page to go to, which is awesome. So let's recap a little bit what we've done, just as a reminder of what's going on here. So what we did is we loaded Fortify by simply requiring it using Composer. So once we did that, what happened was it downloaded files into the vendor folder here, and then we used that command to publish the same Fortify here. Let me see if I can find that real quick without wasting much time. This one right here, vendor publish, in order for it to create the files that we need for Fortify to run. So it added a few files here, and so what you needed to do was go to the Fortify service provider and add your views here, your routes in here. Instead of adding them to the web routes file as we normally do, you add them here. That's one thing you do. And then you go to the app config, and then you register the Fortify as a service provider here. And then also you go to there's a new file created here called fortify.php in the config, where you can configure the home page, either this what email actually stands for in the table, and you can configure where it goes to the home after registering a user. Everything else here, the features, you can select which features you want. Maybe it's just registration and what else? I don't know. Reset passwords, update passwords, etc, etc. So once we are done with that, we create an actual view in the views here, which we have done inside Auth. We've created a view, and that's it. We are done. Now, what it expects here, what Laravel expects, are a few. Let me see here for a second. Let's come back to register here. Let me move this. So it expects a form to be submitted to the same page, which is register here. So what we will do is let's add a method here called post, as we would normally do. And always do not forget the CSRF token there inside. Make sure it's inside the form. And then let's add input of type text here. The name is going to be name. So what it expects are 3, like this. So there's name, there's email. You can also use username because both of them lead to the same place. But we can use email here. So I'll say email there just to make sure it accepts an email. And then finally password, like so. And I'll leave it as text because I want the user to be able to see this. And then there is a second one called password confirmation. I usually misspell confirmation, I don't know, for some reason. So that's why I prefer to actually get it directly from here. So let me just find the registration feature here. There we go. So it actually mentions here on registration what it expects. So it expects a name, email, username, password, and password confirmation field. That's all it expects. So this is all you need to add. Let me just paste it here just to make sure I didn't misspell it. Well, luckily I did not. So let me put a few break tags here, like so. Copy. Let me paste on all of these. Paste, and then I will add one last input of type submit, like that. And then let me say sign up over here, like so. I'll change this to value, like that. Let me add a few placeholders here. I'll say placeholder. This one is username, like so. Then I can copy this to these others over here and write something else instead. So email and password, and then confirm password. Yes, confirm password, like that. All right, great. So back here to the sign up, refresh. And there we go. So this is awesome. Let's put something because we are expecting errors here. Oops. Let me put a break tag here. So we are indeed expecting errors. Now it's up to you how you want to write the errors. Either you can put them down here, anywhere there. It's entirely up to you. So here what I will do is I'll add a for each loop instead. I'll say for each errors, like so. Oops, sorry. I just want them at the top there as error. I don't know why my shift key isn't doing the job. And then I will put end for each, obviously, like that. And for each, like so. And then I just want to echo out the errors and then put my break tag over there. That's about it. Okay, good. Now, for now, this is it. We have our form, and if now I just click sign up here, oopsie, it's refreshing, but I don't see any errors. Let's see, for each, oh, sorry, my bad. I should put O here, like that. Okay, great. I think that's the mistake I had made. Let me try again. Okay, finally we get some errors. The name field is required, email, etc., etc., which is awesome. So let's see how we can actually make a sign up in the next video.